Let's talk a little bit about journalism and some sad subjects as well from The Sun. Jennifer Brown, thank you for being here.
Thanks.
How's The Sun doing, by the way?
We're doing really well, thank you.
All right, now this story coming from Dacono was it was a weird story to read. It must have even been worse to do. Not worse, but you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Let's just go over the facts first. A teen suicide is broadcast on social media. What happened?
Well, the way I learned about this story was a new state law that said it makes it a crime to record or to share a recording of a suicide or a photo. And when I looked into it more, what I found out is that a boy who was just 13 years old, Von Mercado, took his own life, and while he was dying, opened a Snapchat call, video call, with a girl who was also 13 years old at the time. And that 13-year-old girl video recorded the call, screen record, they call it on Snapchat. And the allegations were that after his death, that video was spread all over town, the small town of Dacono, where about 6,000 people live there. Teenagers all over town were reporting getting this video via Snapchat, which...
It's just hard to wrap your mind around, one, a teen suicide, two, the new world where somebody is going to live stream it and then it's going to be shared afterwards. There's just so many things wrong with each level of this. Who wanted to see the video? Did she just broadcast it out, or did she share it with one person and it just went viral?
Right. Well, the way Snapchat works is it's meant to be like a private conversation between two people, so there's no like broadcasting it out or making it go viral, so to speak. It's more like one person has a photo or video and they snap it to the next person, and when that teenager views it, it disappears off their account. So that's why the officers had such a hard time as they interviewed kid to kid to kid. You know, they would say, well, I saw it, I sent it to so-and-so, or so-and-so's seen it. I can describe it to you, but I can't pull it up on my Snapchat anymore because it's gone. So the video just hopped around.
One kid would watch it and had the power to send it to the next kid,
right,
or to several kids.
Right.
And then they'd see it and they could bring it on, but they couldn't save it.
Right.
All right. And so the police wanted to see this video. Mm-hmm. I'm not too sure why. Why did they want to see this video?
Some of the parents in the town whose children had seen the video and were extremely distraught. There was a lot of kids on suicide watch for a few months. Were asking the police to put an end to the video circulating. So the police were really trying to, number one, see if it existed, and try to put a stop to anyone sending it again. And they found out in the course of that it's not a crime to send such a video. And they did find another video that they believe was taken in the backyard of the boy after he was dead, by the same 13-year-old girl. That video they were able to confiscate off of her family's laptop, but they never could track down a video of the suicide in progress. Why
didn't they just go to Snapchat and say, can I have this video?
That's a good question. So they asked Snapchat. They had a court order. Snapchat took 3 months to respond to the little police department in Dacono, and all they would say is, oh, we can tell you that this girl used Snapchat 5 times the night of the suicide, but we cannot tell you any of the content because our content is meant to be private between sender and receiver, so can't tell you if there was photo or video or release those to you.
But does it still exist somewhere if they wanted to, if a court ordered them to? Is it there, or is it just gone in the ether?
What they said to me is that it's gone. However, you know, this wasn't a criminal case, and I think it may have been different if it was. And the police chief up there, Brian Skaggs, even said it might have gone down differently if he were actually charging someone with a crime instead of trying to stop this from hurting the kids in his community.
All right, so bring the story along. It is now a crime to do what what this girl did or other people who got the video did. Is that correct? And tell me how it
said. Yeah.
Tell me. Lori Sain sponsored a bill. This it happened in her district. She's a state senator. What does the law say?
The law says that it is a misdemeanor in Colorado to send a video or image of someone who is dying by suicide or is already dead, along with a menacing or threatening message. Some of the allegations in Dacono were that some kids who received those images also had a message with it that said, "Why don't you go kill yourself too?" or something to that effect. And the people in that community were really upset that that wasn't a crime and brought it to their representative, Lori Sain, who had it. It was, I think, the only bill passed that didn't have a Democratic prime sponsor at the legislature.
Really? But
that's what she said.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I want to level. I get it. That of course this should be against the law. How could you do this? Then there's that little part of First Amendment stuff going, well, wait a second. If you have an image, the government is going to tell you can't share it. Even if you have an awful, hateful message of why don't you go kill yourself, there's been a lot of hateful people who have a right to free speech, and the ACLU has helped make sure that they also have that right. So, was the battle on the First Amendment? Did anybody go, wait a second, this doesn't feel right?
Not in the committee hearing that I heard. There wasn't that issue brought up, but the police chief up there in Dacono, did comment that it's just the world we live in. People will take a picture of anything and immediately share it, and you wouldn't think that people would share images of this. However, there are people that do.
Especially 13-year-olds who have a sense of the macabre and can be rather morbid themselves. And I remember how awful that time was, and nothing phases them. But there's still just something cultural that's the problem. I mean, the law, fine. I don't think that solves much. I don't think any 13-year-old is going to go, well, I've got this. I'm not going to share it with my friend because, well, I don't want to go to jail. What is the punishment for this? It's crime?
A misdemeanor, so it was I can't remember the dollar amount, but basically a fine. And I think what they wanted to come out of it was some kind of education. What the family of Vaughn wants to come out of it is for kids to hear in school, see a flyer or something that says, don't share these kind of images with each other. But so far that hasn't really happened. The law was passed, and that's all that's come of it.
So the education hasn't hit. What was it like doing this story? This story is got to be a little different than your usual political story. Who did you talk to? How hard was it?
It was really sad and tough. I started out, I just called Lori Sain, and I thought this would be a fairly simple story, and she could explain why she brought this bill to the legislature. And it ended up with me spending some time in Dacono with the boy's family and other parents in town whose children had seen the video, a pastor up there who really was begging for some kind of mental health resources to come to her town, and she felt like she didn't know how to handle all of these kids who were on suicide watch and kind of obsessed with this boy's suicide because they had either seen it or heard about it in too much detail, and she didn't know how to handle it. It really exposed that they have a mental health shortage up there, and even the police chief was saying that this case made him realize that they really need a mental health responder to come on certain calls. They knew the kid, for one thing.
Well, it's a town of 6,000 people. Everybody knows it. Is the town, I hate to use this term, healing? Getting better?
Yes, I think that tales of seeing the video have diminished. They say it's still out there, but I think they're getting better. Like I said, the family would like people to know about this law.
Well, this will help. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Listen for me on KHOW Radio. Read me in the Post, and we'll see you next week.